Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. I mean, the title alone tells you you're in for something heavy. And this isn't just a novel, right? It's really the story of an entire world cracking at the seams. So today, we're going to unpack this incredible tragedy, the story of a great man and the great society that crumbles right along with him. So how does a great man fall? And maybe even more importantly, how does his whole world fall apart with him? These are the big questions at the very heart of this book. We're going to see how the personal story of our hero, Okonkwo, is completely tangled up with the story of his Igbo culture as it faces colonialism. You really can't understand one without the other. All right, so let's meet our protagonist, Okonkwo. He is a huge deal in his village, Umuofia. We're talking fierce warrior, respected farmer, the whole package. But here's the thing you have to understand about him. His entire life, everything he is built on fear. Specifically, the fear of becoming his father. And wow, the contrast between these two is just night and day. Okonkwo is known as the roaring flame, all action, all intensity, driven by this deep, deep fear of being seen as a failure. And then you have his father, Unoka. He was a gentle soul, a musician who loved to chat, but he was also lazy, always in debt, and seen by everyone as a total failure. So Okonkwo basically made a vow to himself. He would hate everything his father ever stood for. So, 7. What's the big deal with this number? Well, this is how long the greatest wrestler around, Emma Lindsay the cat, had been undefeated for 7 whole years. And then along comes an 18-year-old Okonkwo, and he throws him. Just like that. This one single act made him famous overnight and really set the tone for the rest of his life. Okay, so we've met Okonkwo, this powerhouse of a man, but he didn't just appear out of nowhere, right? He's part of this really rich, complex Igbo society in Umuofia. And honestly, to get why it all falls apart later, we first have to appreciate just how sophisticated this world really was. Yeah, anyone who thinks this was some primitive society is just wrong. Take their justice system. You had the Egwugwu. These were masked elders who represented the ancestral spirits of the clan, and they would act as judges. But it wasn't just about guilt or innocence. In one case, they oversee a domestic dispute, and instead of just punishing someone, their goal is to restore balance to the community. It's this amazing blend of law, religion, and social therapy all rolled into one. And that sense of community was everywhere. A marriage, for instance? Oh, it was way more than just 2 people getting hitched. It was a massive event that brought 2 whole families, sometimes 2 whole villages together. You had the negotiations, the sharing of palm wine, all the feasting and dancing. It was a ritual designed to weave the fabric of their society even tighter. So what held this world together? Well, you had a few key pillars. Yams were everything. They were called the king of crops and basically symbolized a man's wealth and status. Conversation was a true art form filled with wise proverbs. And life was guided by important rituals, like the Week of Peace. The big takeaway here is that problems were solved together, as a clan. This was a well-oiled, highly functional society. But you can probably feel it coming, can't you? Even before the outsiders show up, we start to see the first cracks forming. And they're not just in the society. They're inside Okonkwo himself. His greatest strength, that absolute refusal to be weak, is about to become his fatal flaw. And things start to go wrong fast. First, because he's so terrified of looking weak, he takes part in killing his adopted son, Ikamafuna, a boy he truly loves. It's a devastating choice. Then, things get worse. At a funeral, his gun goes off by accident, and he kills another clansman. For this crime, the punishment is severe. 7 years in exile. His whole life. Everything he worked for is just shattered. And then there's this really chilling bit of foreshadowing. A swarm of locusts descends on the village. Now, at first, everyone's happy. They're a good source of food. But listen to how the book describes it. A shadow fell on the world. It's this powerful, ominous metaphor for what's coming. The oracle even calls the white men locusts later on. They arrive, they seem harmless or even beneficial at first, and then they just consume everything. So while Okonkwo is away serving his exile, everything changes. This is the moment the Christian missionaries arrive. And they don't just bring a new God, they bring a new way of life that puts a knife right to the heart of the old ways. So how did they get their foot in the door? Well, it was pretty clever, actually. They didn't go for the powerful leaders, not at first. Instead, they appealed to the people on the fringes. You had the Osu, who were outcasts in Igbo society. Christianity told them they were equal. And you had the disillusioned, people who were troubled by some of the clan's traditions, people like Okonkwo's own son, Noe. And for Okonkwo, this is just the ultimate betrayal. His own son, Noe, the boy he was so hard on, trying to make him a man, finds comfort not in his father's world, but in the songs of these strangers. You have to remember, something broke in Noe when Achebe was killed. This new religion felt like an answer, an escape from the parts of his culture that haunted him. So after 7 long years, Okonkwo finally comes home. But the home he returns to is broken. It's fractured. The new religion has driven a wedge so deep into the community that the clan just can't act as one anymore. The center is no longer holding. Okonkwo's best friend, Obiorika, puts it perfectly. He says he has put a knife on the things that held us together and we have fallen apart. And that's exactly it, isn't it? It wasn't a random collapse. The missionaries and colonizers strategically took apart all the things that held the Igbo people together. Their justice, their family bonds, their faith. I mean, just look at the difference. This wasn't a merger, it was a hostile takeover. The Igbo system of justice with the Egwugu, gone. Replaced by a British district court. The authority of the clan elders? Nope, now you have a district commissioner. The idea of social exile for a crime? Replaced by prisons and hangings. The entire power structure was just ripped out from the roots. And Okonkwo, well, he just can't deal with this. He's a man of the old world, a man of action. He looks around and all he sees is weakness, a clan that's lost its way. And his complete refusal to bend, to adapt, it leads us straight to the tragic end of the story. It all comes to a head. In one last furious act of defiance, Okonkwo kills a court messenger who shows up to break up a meeting. He stands there, machete in hand, and he waits. He expects the other men to rise up with him, to finally fight back. But nothing. Just silence. And in that terrible, deafening silence, he knows. It's over. His world is gone. They won't fight. And what happens next is maybe the greatest tragedy of all. Okonkwo takes his own life. In his culture, suicide is an abomination. It's an offense against the earth, which means his body is now evil, and his own people, the very clansmen whose respect he craved his entire life, are forbidding from even touching him. He dies completely and utterly alone. And the final lines of the book, they are just gut-wrenching. The district commissioner finds Okonkwo's body, and you know what he thinks? He thinks this whole story, this epic, tragic life, might make for a reasonable paragraph in the book he's writing. And get this title, The Pacification of the Primitive Tribes of the Lower Niger. Just wow. An entire world, a great man's tragedy, all reduced to a cold, arrogant, dismissive footnote. And it leaves you with this chilling final thought. Who gets to write history? Whose story actually gets told?